Hello everyone, welcome back. I am glad you're here. Today is going to be part 3 of the Colt Saga, and as the video is titled, the saga continues. So just to quickly recap, essentially I bought this pistol sight unseen on Midway USA just because, man, I was like, I've been wanting a Colt to build on, to sort of like, make that heirloom pistol and slowly work on it over time. And I knew that I wanted a standard ejection port, and it had to be blued, right? And I saw this one, and essentially it is a Mark IV reissue. And it's a beautiful gun, no doubt about that, right? Really, really good looking pistol. It has the standard ejection port. It's got the bead blasted rounds on the pistol, polished flats, and a nice bluing on there. So I got it in, and as you guys saw in part 1, very quickly started to discover a lot of problems, but the glaring one was half the rifling was missing in the barrel. So I kind of just stopped there. I didn't even shoot it. I immediately was like, nope, that's not right. I'm not even going to go forward with this. I sent it off to Colt, and after 3 months, almost 3 months, they finally sent it back with a new national match barrel, and it is fixed, albeit not super great fitted on the barrel, but we'll let that go because it's fixed. And then basically closing out part 2, I put in my favorite trigger shoe. I put in on these beautiful grips, but other than that, the gun was largely stock besides springs, and I just moved on ahead. Now, I was able to, in part 2, to sort of pick apart some of the other QC issues, like the sear was in really bad shape, and the trigger pull was bad, and overall the whole gun just was really poorly fit. But I left part 2 with basically a happy ending and just said, okay, there we go. So I want to, in part 3 today, to tell you, what it's been like over the past month and a half or so, month that I've had this, and what's happened, because a lot's happened. And I just felt like there's so much to tell now. There's so many things that have happened that it warrants its own video and not just like a quick post or something. And if you guys are a part of the Patreon, all the Patreons have watched me deal with these issues as they happen. So I'm just going to dive into this. I'm going to tell you the issues I've had, how I remedied those, and where we're at today. So as I began really just living with the pistol, examining it, these are the issues I started running into. First of all, the thumb safety was atrocious. It had a very big burr that looked like it had been hanging off this area right here, which is the part that runs over the detent when you actuate the safety. Okay, so there was a big burr that looked like it had just been folded over and sort of pressed into the steel there. And not only that, there was absolutely zero attempt to profile that little corner right there. And so the gun just was really difficult, especially if it was dry. It took both thumbs to turn that safety on. It was actually off. It was very, very difficult. After several hours, this took a lot of careful, slow work to get that right. And I know there's going to be people who say, it doesn't take that long. I wanted to go slow because, man, anybody who's done this stuff before knows one stroke too far and it's over. You can't put that metal back, at least not easily. So I took my time. Now it is very positive up, very positive down, right? You can hear it. It's a little heavy, but I actually like that. When you're actually holding the pistol like you should, it's easy to use with one hand. So that's now fixed, but again, very, very poorly set up the way it came. Next was the grip safety. The grip safety started having an issue where I would hold the pistol, and, doesn't matter whether the hammer's down or not, but I would, whatever. I'd put the pistol down, and the grip safety would stay depressed. And then I would go and, flick it, and it would pop out. So I went in there and had to, knock a burr down off of the arm on the grip safety. Not a big deal, but, it's just another issue that I've had to deal with, and it's a little bit frustrating. Next up this is where things took a turn that actually started to make me quite angry, to be honest with you. So the hammer and sear were really poorly done out of the box. In part 2, you saw that the sear had basically zero proper profiling. To quote Ken Hackathorn, it looked like it was machined on a curb. It was very rough. There were literally pieces of metal hanging off of it. It was gritty. It had tons of creep. So I put a relief cut on there and cleaned it up a little bit, and that helped. But man, the way it just felt off. The whole thing felt off. And when I took out the hammer and the sear to sort of like measure them, and I even tried like doing some swaps and seeing if that would help the problem, it didn't. The hammer and sear are, well, how do I say it? Their own spec. They're just different. They're weird. They're not like everybody else. And I know people are going to say, no, if it's Colt, it's in spec. No, it's not. It's not. And this is having taken apart original World War II and pre-war guns. No, it's not. It's off. So, but again, I just thought, okay, we're gonna let these wear in. I'm just gonna shoot it because I really don't want to turn this into a Colt frame and slide, and nothing else in the pistol is Colt. I'm trying to keep it as original as possible. But then the last nail in the coffin for the hammer and sear issue came up, and that is the hammer started rusting this brownish red color. And after doing some research and talking to some folks, this is a CZ Dan Wesson Colt wide issue where, for whatever reason, whatever they're making their hammers out of, they are rusting in a very strange rust. And so I took a wire brush, I knocked it down, I lubricated it, left it overnight. A few days later, I come back and it's popping up again. And so I thought, okay, I'm done. These parts are garbage and I'm getting rid of them. So those were replaced with a Wilson Combat Factory Plus sear, and I happen to have one of these in stock, one of these Colt manufactured reproduction pre-war hammers. And I have this on my Cimarron pre-war build that I did, and I just think these are a great hammer, man. They look great. They're very functional. The bluing, this is like a cast part pretty clearly, and so you can see some of there's a cast line down the middle. And overall, it's just a little rough against this nicely polished gun, but it passes the 5-foot test. It looks pretty good. So I'm rolling with that because I don't want to spend any more money on this pistol than I already have. Now, on top of all the stuff that I had already done, I also noticed that the pistol was feeding really rough. There's something about the recoil. It's a little hard to explain, but when a gun's feeding rough, it feels like the gun is cycling slow, and it feels like the recoil is sharper. And I just noticed that with this gun. And so, I did my tests where I'm racking cartridges through it really slow, and sure enough, I'm noticing marring on the cases as they're fed. So I took the gun apart. Well, lo and behold, there's a nice big fat spiky burr on the bottom corner of the extractor. So, once again, deburred the next part, and that brings us to, I believe, part number 4 that I've had to deburr, and that absolutely changed how the gun feeds. It fed extremely smooth. Those on Patreon will know I put up a video showing that process, and the gun just fed like buttery smooth. So I wanted to take it out to the range because at this point I had done a lot of work on it between the hammer and the sear and the thumb safety and the grip safety and now the extractor, and I'm like, I need to see this thing run because, look, when you make a lot of changes and adjustments to a gun, you have to stop and just go, okay, hold on, does it work, right? At least that's how I think. And so I took it out to the range, and you'll see from some of this range footage that, well, I'll say this first. The recoil impulse was much nicer. It was noticeably better. However, now my extraction was not just sloppy like it was before, it was completely erratic to where now I'm not only getting brass cases in the bridge of my nose, I'm getting them going left like a lot. I think at the end of the day, I picked up something like 15 cases that were 10 feet to my left. Explain that, man. I genuinely, I don't know how that happens, but suffice it to say, the extractor needed attention. Back to the bench I went. This time I tuned the extractor. I don't really know how many thousandths I put into the extractor tension, but, I did my extractor testing, and it held a full ball round nice and tight while wiggling the slide around, which is really how you test it. And I know some people do brass only, and that's okay. I'm a big fan of the Jason Burton test, and it's a much hardier test where you put an actual ball round in the extractor. So I tuned that up, and now that brings us to today, where I just took it out back to the range to finally test, okay, after all that, is this gun going to work properly? And I can happily report to you guys, the Colt ran great. As of today, now this gun feels and runs like it should have when I got it. With the parts that have been repaired and replaced, everything is feeling nice and crisp, nice and smooth and clean. All the brakes are nice and crisp. It's really what you should expect from a properly set up pistol. As you'll see from some of the footage, the extraction was not perfect, but I'm not going for perfect because that's not real. It was very consistently to the right, over my shoulder, generally right. It was about exactly to my right. If my nose is north, they were going east and southeast, which is great. Now, again, every once in a while, you'll see one kind of like come up and maybe get close to my shoulder or kind of flop out. So I could probably put like another thousandth or two of tension on that extractor, and I may do that. But overall, the extraction was great. What you don't want to do when you're working on these 1911s is sacrifice good in pursuit of perfect. Because sometimes while you're pursuing perfect, you start making mistakes, you go too far, and now the gun's working badly in the opposite direction. So I'm going to stop. It ran about 200 rounds today, very nicely. I don't feel a need to keep going because I don't want to fiddle any further. Another thing I did today was I shot the Colt right next to what has really become sort of a benchmark for me, which is the TSOS 1911, and this is blue. Everybody who's been on this channel for a while knows blue. This pistol has become well loved, and rightfully. It's a wonderful little gun. So I shot it against blue because I just feel like this gun is so well done from the factory for a fraction of the cost. And I really wanted to ask the question, how do they compare? And now I can say the Colt feels better than this one. And really, what does it come down to? It's I put a bunch of time into making each and every part function as optimally as I could. Whereas the TSOS, all I've done to this is springs. It's still, in the mainspring housing, but that doesn't have anything to do with reliability. It's got the same barrel. It's got the same sear, hammer, all that good stuff. I've done no slide fitting. Bushing barrel is all original, and so it's been awesome. Now I made a couple more observations I wanted to tell you guys about post extractor work on this 1911. So before, I was having solid ejection, and I have not yet had a failure in this pistol. Well, I take that back. And we're going to talk about this in another video where I'm going to talk about magazine springs and how you should maintain them. But basically, I pulled out two really old mags, and I was having failures to feed on those, but I tried those in other guns, and it was doing the same thing in every pistol. I isolated those out, and the problem went away in all pistols. So it's very clear to me those are like 20-year-old Springfield mags. The springs are just toast. So I'm gonna prove that to you guys in another video. But suffice it to say, the 2 or 3 failures to feed that I had with this gun were literally in the same 2 mags, and it was those 2 mags. Once I isolated those out, the problem went away. So other than that, I've had 0 problems. 0. The gun has fed. However, something that I noticed until I've done this extractor work is this gun was very hard on brass ejection. And, this is pretty typical of guns with a standard ejection port. So for those of you who don't know, this is a standard ejection port. I have a video on this, which I would recommend you watch. It'll maybe help it make sense. But you can see here, this one is lowered. And the whole thought behind this, people say it makes the gun more reliable. I don't believe that at all. You know, you go to guys like Ken Hackathorn, and they explain they were around in the 70s when these changes started happening. And the reason they made this change, long story short, is standard ejection port guns tend to beat up brass. And if you're a reloader, that's not good, right? Now it's digging into your bullet cost because it's beating up cases. So you kind of come to expect that with a standard ejection port gun. However, this one in particular was really thrashing cases. I mean, puncturing straight up almost like holes into the brass, which you'll see in some of the pictures here, putting big dents right in the middle of the case, and then very often just mashing the mouth of the case in a way that was unrecoverable. And so I have 4 of those cases here, and you know, maybe you can see that dent. It's a pretty sharp little dent. But these are cases from today. I brought some of these inside, and I did notice that the gun was much gentler on cases. So I did still get a little bit of case mouth deformation. You can see there, it's very hard to perceive on camera. Again, I'll roll in pictures. But the dents are significantly lessened. And so I am noticing that the brass is not getting beat up as much. However, it is still happening very consistently. I mean, it's 9 out of 10 cases that have some sort of scratch, dent, or deformation on the mouth. Something else that I noticed, just a data point. So as you guys know, my T-Sauce has somewhere around 3,200 rounds through it. I stopped counting after I got to the 3,000 mark for my review of this pistol. And I just wanted to show you one of the heavy wear areas on the frames. So if you take apart your pistol, you'll see this is where basically your guide rod is being pinched between the slide and the frame right there. And so this part here is what's stopping your recoil with the slide. And so it can get pretty beat up. And looking at the T-Sauce, there is no deformation on that frame. The Colt, however, is, and guys, this thing only has like 500 rounds through it. It's not much, but if I run my fingernail over it, there is actually like indention into the frame, which is not reassuring. I'm not going to lie. Like that's not great. So, you know, I'm going to keep shooting it. It is what it is, but I'm just pointing it out that like the frame wear on the Colt is noticeably different with a fraction of the round count. And same thing here, like if I just run my fingernail, it's perfectly smooth along this face right here. See, like here, if I just run this blade, see this little part where it goes from unfinished to finished? Hopefully you guys can see that. It's perfectly smooth. There's no dent at all. On the Colt, if I run it over, same spot, it hangs. It's dented in right there. So the steel on the frame is you know, compressing. It's not what you would expect from, you know, I mean, this company claims that these are forged frames. Overall, big picture on the Colt is it's running. It has not failed yet, but man, the amount of work I've had to put into this pistol it's frankly unacceptable. You know, I'm willing to do it because I know how to do it. And honestly, guys, I don't want to send this off for, you know, however long it would take for Colt to correct every single one of these issues. And you know what? I'm sure they would. But I think it would be done subpar. And I think it would just, again, take way too long. And if I'm going to send a pistol off for that long, it's going to come back with a Jason Burton signature on it or something. Frankly, it's unacceptable that this pistol has been so horribly done. It's good now, but, you know, look, the slide to frame fit, it's still not as good as the T-Sauce. I've had to replace a ton of parts because they are, you know, subpar or broken or corroding or something weird like that. It's just taken a monumental amount of work to get this pistol to where it's like, okay, that's a good gun. I trust it. It works how it should. You know, I understand it, and it's a proper 1911. Having gone through everything I've gone through to get it here, would I buy the pistol again and go through it all again to say I have a Colt? No. No, what I wish I would have done, with the amount of money I sunk into this pistol, what I wish I would have done was bought another one of my T-Sauce Remington Rand copies, the historical 1911. I wish I would have stripped all the parkerizing off, done a proper hot salt bath blue on it, and blued that one just like this, and replaced all the parts with the parts that I want. If I would have done that, I still would have come in probably $300 or $400 cheaper than this Colt, and that's without everything that I've done. And to tell the truth, guys, I'm not even gonna lie, I might still do that, and the reason is the gun feels really good now. It feels really good. I've got it feeling like a proper 1911 and a good one. But the way it's wearing makes me nervous. The fact that the frame already has basically, impact dents in it, that sucks. That tells me that I might have a frame crack here really soon. If I ever buy another Colt, it will be something vintage. I will never again buy a new Colt. That won't happen. Unless somebody buys them who actually wants to turn a good product, then I would consider it, but this will be it for me. I said this in every video so far too, that a lot of people are like, well man, I got one and I'm super happy with it. It's been great. And guys, I'm happy for you. And I don't mean that facetiously or I'm not being snarky. I really mean that. I want you to have a good experience. But I will also say, and I hope you guys who have had this experience will comment, I really do, so that others can see that this is not a one-off issue. The barrel rifling issue. I know of at least 10 people on YouTube and Patreon who said they had the same problem. At least. I know there's several people who got this same pistol, the same exact model number, and had all the same issues I've had. Bad triggers, bad thumb safeties, rifling, all that good stuff. And I'll even take it a step further. A buddy of mine who has a gun store, he sent me this the other day.
It's half rifled.
And he said all the same things that I just said. He said it's the worst fit 1911 he's ever seen. The thumb safety's horrific. The trigger's horrific. Everything on the gun is very sloppy fit. And the worst part is, you heard it, the barrel is half rifled. And here's a picture that he sent me to prove it. I mean, guys, Colt's a trash company now. They're garbage. And I think, just like it should be super rare that somebody gets a lemon, I think it's actually inverted now. I think it's super rare that somebody gets a good one. And that means I think Colt needs to go away. I think Colt needs to be bought out by somebody else. And, CZ needs to take their hands off of this name. And I honestly, who I wish would buy it is I wish T-Sauce. I wish T-Sauce would buy Colt. And genuinely, I wish they would go and make them in Turkey, put the Colt name on them, and double the price. If they did that, they couldn't make them fast enough. I'm telling you. They would sell these like your head would spin. And I know the people who say they want an American product, guys, look, this Colt might be made in America, but who owns Colt? It's not an American company. Where do you think your money is going? Are you guys aware that CZ and their European owners are helping to lobby for gun control in Canada? Do you still want to buy that American product? It's not real. It's not real. So all these people who feel very patriotic to say, oh, I will never buy a Turkish gun, you might be buying an American gun, but it's certainly funding something you don't support somewhere else. So I just reject that whole argument completely. So I would proudly buy a Colt that was made in Turkey if it was this good. If it was this good, oh my gosh. Like I said, I would pay $1,000 for that. Because look, here's the truth. I already paid over $1,000 for this. And it was garbage. It's bad. Like, it's good now, but for how long? It's kind of a question mark, right? This one, I've got over 3,000 rounds through it. I know it's good. Nobody's talking me out of it. So anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on Colt. I own this gun. I'm going to keep it. You know, it's not something I'm going to conceal carry. I'm not going to shoot it a ton because now I'm kind of worried it's just going to frag on me. But there you go. It's been a long road to get it operating properly, and you know, it is what it is. I'll be honest, I'm not super thrilled with it, and that idea about buying a TSOS historical and, you know, transferring over a lot of these parts, you know, even the grips, and turning that into the heirloom piece, it's very likely. So there you go, guys. That's the Colt Part 3. I hope to God I'm done messing with this gun. It has taken way too much time. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you on the next one.